Hello and welcome to day 4 here at the Christchurch Regatta, which of course means it's the final day. We have the quarterfinals, the semi-finals and of course the highly anticipated finals all coming up on today's programme. But before we do anything else, let's find out who has made it into the final 4. After all the round 4 matches had been completed, it was time for the quarterfinals. In the women's it was Wolfson versus St Hilda's, Wadham versus Keble, Pembroke versus Brasenose and Merton versus Queen's. Of those, Wolfson, Wadham, Pembroke and Merton won their quarterfinals and progressed into the semis. And over on the men's side, it was St Hugh's versus Brasenose, Magdalen versus Corpus Christi, Wolfson versus Wadham and Christchurch versus Pembroke. Of those quarterfinals, St Hugh's, Magdalen, Wolfson and Christchurch went through into the respective semis. After the draw had been completed, this left us with the respective semi-finals. In the women's, Wolfson versus Wadham and Pembroke versus Merton, and then in the men's, St Hugh's versus Magdalen and Wolfson versus Christchurch. So that's the action from the quarter-finals. Let's find out what happened when those respective 4 teams went on to their semi-finals with a roundup of the action. The first semi-final was close between Wadham and Wolfson, but at the end of the day, Wadham managed to come out with the victory. And equally it was close between Pembroke and Merton in the other women's semi-final, but Pembroke just managed to edge Merton out. In both semi-finals the winning margin was less than a length. Over in the men's, however, it was a dominant display by St Hugh's, who comfortably beat Magdalen, and in the other semi-final, Wolfson just managed to edge out Christchurch in what was a closely fought race, with Wolfson pulling away slightly towards the end. So in both of those semi-finals, we're joined by Katie and Velna, our pundits for the day. They both look like close semi-finals, and they both look like the crews were rowing quite well.
Yes, I think definitely the semi-finals were a cut above the rest of the racing today. You can see those 4 crews looking really nice on the water, nice and long strokes, nice and composed, very few mistakes from any of them. So yeah, it was nice rowing to watch. Okay,
and then so for the final it's going to be Pembroke versus Wadham. Out of those two, who's your favourite? Who do you think is going to win?
I'm going to pick Pembroke.
And Velna, do you agree?
I definitely agree. Pembroke, they rode really longly and we'll see.
Okay then, well that's the women's. For the men's, St Hugh's beat Magdalen and Wolfson beat Christchurch in their respective semi-finals, setting up a repeat of the Nephthys Regatta final from a couple of weeks ago. So it'll be Wolfson versus St Hugh's. In that regatta final, St Hugh's took home the victory. Katie, is it going to be the same result today?
I think it's very hard to say that it's the same result, even though it's the same course, the same crews. A week makes a big difference with novices.
And Velna, if you had to call who's going to win, who would you say out of Wolfson and St Hugh's?
I think St Hugh's, they look really strong today, so I'd go for them.
Okay, well thank you very much. We're going to now have a look at actually what did happen in the finals, and then we'll be back with our commentary and analysis. Well, despite our pundits calling for a Pembroke victory, it turned out that Wadham took home a comfortable win against Pembroke in the Christchurch Regatta final for the women's. They were then presented with their medals by the Dean of Christchurch. The men's race, however, was a much closer affair. At halfway, they were basically neck and neck, with St Hugh's leading ever so slightly. Then if you look closely at our footage, you'll see the number 3 seat catches a crab, and despite recovering quickly, this would prove fatal to St Hugh's ambitions, as Wolfson would then overtake them and win by just 3/4 of a length. So congratulations to Wolfson in the men's and Wadham in the women's for winning the 2017 Christchurch Regatta. Now in the women's final, Wadham won it quite comfortably in the end over Pembroke. What would you say about Wadham's performance?
I think Wadham, they had a really good technique and they didn't seem as tired as Pembroke, so perhaps that was the reason. Also Wadham, it really seemed that they were putting down more pressure.
Now, however, in the men's, it was a much closer affair, Wolfson and St Hugh's. Now, we did call it for St Hugh's a little bit, but Wolfson took it in the end by only 3/4 of a length.
Hughes had a bit of an issue with a crab just at the end of Boathouse Island. Despite an incredibly quick rescue, that was very impressive from Hughes, it just loses you too much time, and Wolfson obviously capitalised on that.
So the interesting fact here is that this Wolfson team, the Wolfson men's A, went out in round number 1 and had to come through the repechage to go all the way to the final and win the regatta. Is that surprising?
Well, you could say so, but then again, there's so much improvement going on during the week, so...
Yeah.
So congratulations, as we say, to Wolfson there in the men's and, of course, to Wadham in the women's. That concludes the 2017 Christchurch Regatta. But before we go, by popular demand, it was requested that I try out an erging machine to see what it was really like. So I hope you enjoy what happened when Henry met Erg Machine. So, if you ever did any rowing, you've probably been on one of these before. This is a rowing machine, but to rowing people, it's known as an erg machine. What is that? Well, basically, this is a way that rowers simulate rowing without actually being in a rowing boat. They pull on this device here and slide back and forth on this slidey plate here, and this actually imitates relatively well the motion that they commit in a boat when they're actually rowing. And there is a screen providing lots of information and data which tells them exactly how well they are rowing. Ah yes, 140 split. I have a feeling that I might regret that, probably tomorrow, or if not in my later career. Now, to finish, I have been joined by John Broadbent, who is race director, regatta captain, who's basically in charge. John, has it been a successful regatta for you?
I think so. Last year they had quite a few incidents, and this year we had one boat crashing into the bank which didn't need medical attention, so from that point of view everything has run really smoothly.
So successful, but has it been stressful, I think is the question from your point of view?
Yes. I'm quite looking forward to going out and getting drunk tonight.
And then what was your favourite highlight moment of the entire regatta for you?
Well, watching the men's and women's finals, Henry, was great. But Wolfson men got knocked out of the first round and came through repechage, and that's a fantastic thing to see, that sort of an underdog story coming back to win the whole thing.
Excellent. Well, you love to see it, John. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for watching. That concludes our coverage of the Christchurch Regatta this year. We will be back next term when, of course, we move on to the bumps races. The seniors take over in Torpids. That's 7th week of Hillary. But until then, thank you so much for watching and goodbye.